Good morning, everyone. Good morning to those that are watching. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Antigua and Barbuda Holistic Coalition's first live webinar during, of course, Mental Health Awareness Month. Our first live, we are blessed with Stephanie Winter, the owner and certified yoga instructor of Wadadlivity. But before I introduce our special guest, I'll share with you about me for those who do not know me and Antigua and Barbuda Holistic Coalition. So, I am a holistic psychotherapist. I am a child and adolescent expert. I'm a licensed psychotherapist in several U.S. states. I'm the owner of US based private mental health practice, Orchard Blue Counseling Services. I am a descendant of Antigua and Barbuda, the youngest of four, the only one US born. All of my other siblings were born in Antigua and Barbuda. Therefore, with my love for Antigua, I had opened up recently a registered business called Counseling and Consulting with Serene. In addition to that, I also spearheaded and founded Antigua and Barbuda Holistic Coalition, formerly known as Wadadley Wellness Expo. So, just really quick to tell you about ABHC. ABHC was founded. We believe we can achieve a well society in Antigua and Barbuda through a holistic approach that invites a collective of government organizations, non government organizations, nonprofits to partner to increase access to free and affordable holistic wellness for all in Antigua and Barbuda with an emphasis on mental health care. So that's a little bit about us. And now I am going to introduce officially our special guest this morning. So I'll share this beautiful picture. I hope everyone can see. Not sure. Oh, I don't think it's showing. And so Stephanie Winter is a beautiful soul. And I met you, Stephanie, during, I believe, a Humble and Free event. And we talked briefly about yoga. And so I really enjoyed my experience with yoga with you. Yeah. So, Stephanie Winter, you are a Yoga Alliance certified instructor and owner of Wadadlivity. Stephanie specializes in Yin and Kemetic yoga with an Afro-Caribbean perspective on wellness. As owner of Wadadlivity, Stephanie is determined to make wellness accessible to everyone with a commitment to improving physical and mental health amongst people of color. So, Stephanie, I'll turn it over to you. Is there anything that I'm missing?
No, I think you did a really great job. Thank you, Serene.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
thank you again for having me this morning. I'm really excited to get the conversation going about yoga and mental health benefits, especially with a focus on Antigua and Barbuda.
Yes, yes. Shall we? Right? Yoga, I'm not the specialist, and you pretty much are the expert in this and knowledgeable about it, but yoga has been around for centuries. And it is very much an important part or important piece for many, right, in terms of wellness. But I want you to help us understand and learn the history of yoga.
Okay, absolutely. So, first of all, yoga is not a religion. I usually get a few questions and raised eyebrows, particularly in Antigua, about yoga and whether, it's a Hindu religion and whether it will clash with, Christian beliefs. So, first and foremost, yoga is not a religion. It's a methodology or a philosophy, if you'd like to consider it that way, that seeks to join the mind and the body so that you can be at peace, essentially. So the asana, that's a physical part of yoga, which you're probably most familiar with, the poses, you see tree pose, you see warrior. So all of that physical aspect of yoga is the asana. And what it's meant to do is strengthen your body and prepare your mind for meditation. So sometimes we think of yoga and meditation as two separate activities, but they're really one and the same. So we do the asana to help strengthen our body, to calm our mind, to get ready for the meditation so that we can connect to ourselves and the environment around us. Yoga is deeply tied to Indian history. So, a lot of the poses have names in Sanskrit. So that's, I think, led to the misconception that it is part of the Hindu religion, that it is something to do with Indian culture. So, yes, it is a very important part of Indian culture, but it's not exclusive to India.
I did not know that people thought yoga, and I'm sorry if I'm laughing. I don't that
No.
people thought yoga was a religion. I Very
Yes. Yes.
interesting. Huh.
Yeah. So I noticed particularly when I would come back to Antigua. So I was living overseas for a number of years, and on various trips back, I would have little pop-up yoga sessions here and there, and I would get people asking questions like, if I'm Christian, can I participate? And it had never dawned on me before those questions that someone might have reservations about trying yoga because they're of the religious implications. So I really just wanted to make that, clear for everyone. So, if maybe you've wanted to try yoga and you thought that you couldn't because of your religious beliefs, please know that that's not the case.
So, for those that don't know, right, and you and I were talking, I studied dance for a very long time. I started dancing since I was 3, because I was always moving my butt, as my parents told me, and everyone kept saying, "Throw her in dancing school," and I caught on really quick. The younger you are, as you know, right?
Yes.
And you shared with me that you're a dancer, and so I studied West African dance for many years, ballet, modern jazz, modern tap, just to name a few. And as I got older, I was introduced to other styles of African dancing. For those that don't know, there's not one type, and there's not one type of drum. But yoga, as you get older as a dancer, and I think maybe so now, I think younger dancers are built a little differently. That yoga is so helpful, as far as a dancer is concerned, with protecting our bones and our joints, um, because there's a lot of muscles involved.
Of
So
course.
that's why I laughed, because when you said persons thought it was a religion, I'm like, but not only dancers, but athletes utilize yoga
Mhm.
as well, because it also helps with strengthening, right? Because in those
Absolutely.
activities and um, as a career, you can damage yourself easily.
Hmm.
Are done. So for me, I have to do very light when I take modern class, as be very light. But as I'm approaching 50, I do want to really get more involved with yoga, because I understand that the joints are not as lube as they used to be, and I work from home. So um, yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And I'm glad, and I'm hoping that many Antigua and Barbudans are listening, and others who think that yoga is a religion. And if it was, nothing wrong with that, but it is not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. So it definitely shouldn't be a deterrent for you to try. And yoga is good for everybody. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody. I teach little kids as young as 3 years old. It's great for seniors and everybody in between. A lot of people will say, oh, I'm not flexible. I can't come to yoga yet. But it's the other way around. You come to yoga so that you can develop flexibility over time. And it's not about doing the craziest variation of every pose. Like your head doesn't have to touch your feet, you don't have to be twisted like a pretzel. There's a lot of therapeutic benefit in gentle stretching. Um,
Mhm.
so, I also was a dancer. Shout out to Antigua Dance Academy. That's where I got my start, also with a background in West African and, of
Oh,
course, traditional Caribbean folk dancing. So it was really nice that we could bond over that a bit. And that's how I got started in yoga, because when I moved away from Antigua, I wasn't dancing anymore. And exactly what you said, I was looking for a way to maintain my flexibility, my mobility, and my gym offered yoga classes as part of the membership. So I said, okay, I'll give this a try. It looks like a good stretch. My first few classes that I took, it was okay. I definitely felt like I got a stretch, but I wasn't into it beyond the physical, beyond the asana, beyond the poses. It was just, like I said, something to stretch. That changed for me when I started going to a yoga studio. So I changed memberships and started going to a place that only taught yoga. So when I started going there, I realized that one, there's a lot of philosophy behind yoga, which I hadn't had any clue about before. And then it also opened me up to the variety in terms of the types of yoga. There are so many different styles of yoga. And I think that was really helpful for me because one style might resonate with you and not another. So I'll give you a few examples. So vinyasa classes, that's probably the most popular that we see in the West. So it's more about the flow of the class. So generally each breath is tied in with a movement. So, you inhale, you raise your arms, you exhale, you forward fold, things like that. So the class has more of like a rhythmic flow, which I guess is similar to dancing. So that was the first style that I was introduced to. Then there's Ashtanga yoga, which is very rigid. It's always a specific set of postures in a specific order. And I've noticed that for some people, it can be discouraging if that's the first style of yoga you're introduced to, because if you're not able to do the poses, if you're not able to keep up with the class, it can make you feel like you're not good enough when there's no not good enough in yoga. Everybody is good enough, everybody can do it. That might just not be the style for you. Initially, when I tried yin yoga, I hated it. I despised every moment of yin. I thought it was too slow, it was too boring. In yin, you hold the poses or the postures for sometimes 5 to 10 minutes, depending.
Oh my God.
So it just felt like I was laying down there doing absolutely nothing. And, my mind would just go crazy in those moments. And, as I've gotten older, I've gotten to appreciate that more. Not just from the mental side of being able to say, hey, why are all these thoughts bugging me in this moment? And, really taking my time to think about what I'm thinking about.
Mhm.
But it's really great for deep tissue stretching. So it really gives your ligaments the time that they need to relax and stretch. So, for older persons, for persons who have issues where they need to do physio, I find that yin yoga is really helpful because it's accessible. You know, you're generally on the floor or on the mat. We use lots and lots of
Yeah.
props for yin. So it's not just the yoga mat. We use lots of blocks, blankets, bolsters, pillows. So the idea is to get yourself as comfortable as possible so that you can fully relax into the pose and just let gravity do the work for you. So, what started out as the bane of my existence, I eventually went on to do additional certifications in yin because I realized, how beneficial it really is. So that's been really great. And then, of course, Kemetic yoga. I got my first teacher training certification in 2016. And that was a really great program from a studio in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Yoga Alliance certified. So it was really rigid, really thorough. And I met a lot of great people during that time. And then I started teaching right after that. But even having gone through that extensive training, I had never heard of Kemetic yoga. In all the other variations of yoga that we study with Hatha, Vinyasa, Yin, Ashtanga, Jiva Mukti, there's so many types or variations of yoga that came up and we explored, but Kemetic yoga was nowhere on my radar. I think it probably wasn't until about 2018 that I first started hearing about Kemetic yoga, and I decided to do some research into, what is this really? Is this, an actual form of yoga, or is it just, a hashtag that's trending?
Mhm.
And then I was really drawn to Kemetic yoga because it's ancient African yoga. So the
Mhm.
basis of Kemetic yoga, Kemetic comes from Kemet, so the ancient name for Egypt. And the philosophy behind it is essentially that yoga, like many other things, originated in Africa and then was transported to other parts of the world. Um, for various reasons, Indian yoga, as it's sometimes called, is what became mainstream and popularized, and that's what most of us know. But Kemetic yoga is founded in Egyptology. So a lot of the philosophy behind Kemetic yoga is tied directly to like hieroglyphs and um, Egyptian mythology, in the sense that, we know that Egyptians were obsessed, so to speak, with immortality.
Yes.
And what we are learning through Kemetic yoga is that their method for obtaining immortality is yoga, what we now know as yoga. So there were these poses that they would do, again, because it's about connecting your body and your mind so that you could prepare for this higher state of consciousness, which then releases you to this immortality, as we would call it. But it's
I
really,
was
opening your consciousness.
I'm sorry. I was just
No, go
that's
ahead.
exactly what I was thinking about was which I've never been to Egypt yet,
Yeah.
but different places that show photos of the poses that they would do, and some they were on the floor, their leg was up, which I don't they
Mhm.
don't show that a lot. You just see like this a lot, like
Yes.
commercialized pose. But for those that have
Mhm.
visited and shared with me, there's so many other poses, and that's exactly where my mind went to. So it all
Yes.
makes right. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I just
Yes. No need to apologize. So
yeah.
you're absolutely right. So Dr. Asar Happy and Hissar Rahotep, they in the 1970s were the key persons who really went about trying to create a consistent methodology for Kemetic yoga. So, like I mentioned, all the other styles of yoga have been somewhat formalized and documented, and they were extremely critical in obtaining that information, going to Egypt, visiting the tombs, visiting the pyramids, documenting the information, doing lots of research, and combining it into a digestible, a followable schedule of health and wellness. And so their system of Kemetic yoga is what we now know generally around the world as Kemetic yoga. They were not, and they're quick to say they're not the creators of it because they did not create it, it was created in Africa. They just simply formalized it for us to now teach and share. But exactly what you said, there are so many poses that we see in hieroglyphs that when you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, it's yoga, it's exercise, and it's all for the purpose of being able to attain that higher consciousness. So meditation, peace, oneness, however you like to think about it.
Mhm.
I would say one of the key differences I noticed right off the bat between Kemetic yoga and I guess Western or Indian yoga, however you'd like to phrase it, is that in Kemetic yoga, it's a lot less contortions. It's all about geometric alignment, which again makes sense when you think about the pyramids, when you think about Egypt. So ideally, the spine is straight, and that's tied to the chakras. So it's all about releasing these energy blockages so that the chi, however you, again, whichever term you choose to use for it, can flow through your body more freely. So I do find, for older persons, persons who think they have limited mobility, Kemetic yoga is a really good place to start because the foundation of that is with strengthening the spine, it's with proper alignment, and it's more about focusing on your breath in order to guide your movements. So it's very accessible for anyone. And, I think as Black people, as Caribbean people, we have strong ties to Africa, obviously, through the transatlantic slave trade. And Kemetic yoga is one of the ways for us to reconnect with our history, to strengthen our culture, to strengthen our sense of ourselves, and again, give us an identity in yoga. So, it's not about the typical faces that you see, being advertised in yoga. It's about seeing yourself and feeling that connection. So, I've really gravitated towards Kemetic yoga since then, and I completed certifications with Yusur Rahotep himself, which is a really great honor, given his ties to the Kemetic yoga movement.
Beautiful. And that takes us right into this, right?
Yes.
So your Wadadlivity is delivering wellness from an Afro-Caribbean perspective in so many
Mm.
words. Share with us, what does it mean for you, right? Because it can look different for many others, but I think for the most part,
Yeah.
many people can apply this in in aspects of their lives, and as well as in other businesses or individuals who deliver wellness from this perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm born and raised in Antigua. I only left when I went off to university, and I lived overseas for a few years well, for several years before returning. But, I've always been extremely proud of my culture, of my heritage as an Afro-Caribbean person myself. And I think, part of that is, deeply tied to my upbringing and my participation with the Antigua Dance Academy that really gave me a lot of appreciation and pride and respect for our culture and traditional practices. So that's been a key part of, my identity as an individual. And then what I found was when I started taking yoga classes, I didn't really see anybody that looked like me. I didn't see that many Black people. I did not see Black instructors, period. Um, and if I came across one, they weren't from the Caribbean. So it was really important for me as, I continued my journey with yoga to be able to represent myself, our people, and letting us know that there is room for us in this space. It is something that is for us. And when I say Wadadlivity has an Afro-Caribbean perspective, I'm not just talking about yoga. I also mean, the wellness side of things, so in terms of a plant-based diet, um, focusing on ingredients that are indigenous to the Caribbean or that are popular amongst us, because a lot of times we take for granted the amazing superfoods that we have available locally. And, we wait for other people to tell us, our stuff is great before we appreciate it. So I really wanted to make sure that my platform was one that highlighted the best that we have and to encourage people to use, what's around us. We hear about superfoods all the time and we think about acai berries and we think about chia seeds, but we don't look at soursop. Soursop has amazing anti-cancer properties. We don't think about, papa or papaya that has so many antioxidants, so much nutritional value. Again, we focus more on what North America, what Europe tells us is good versus what we know historically to be the best.
And you know what? I actually have fever grass boiling. I'll be right back.
See? Not a problem. But yes, so the other parts of the Afro-Caribbean perspective, if you've known me a long time, I used to have dreadlocks, I wear my hair wrapped a lot of the time. And, it was and is important for me to keep that going in the imagery that I create with Wadadlivity, again, to foster that inclusivity so people can see themselves in it. Because again, I would never see anybody with dreadlocks in a yoga studio. I would never see any instructors with head coverings or anything like that. And I don't want anyone to think because, they look a certain way or they come from a certain background that, oh, yoga is not for me. Oh, like this lifestyle isn't for me. What you can make it for you, you can own it in your own way. And it's definitely something that we can all benefit from.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to get my tea, my bush
No
tea.
problem. Yeah, I'm gonna have my water.
Because you and I were, talking last week about, re-engaging with our culture and particularly food
Mhm.
because we love food, right?
Yes.
And in Barbuda, there's a lot more of importation versus exportation. And I was sharing with
Mhm.
you that a soursop, I'm in New York and I go back and forth between New York and Antigua. And Aaliyah can even share with you that when we go to the supermarkets and there are fruits that are known to us, except the Antigua mango. But if you go for a soursop, I mean, the soursop costs, I think I saw it for 10 to 15 US. I'm sure it was 20
Mhm.
US in one of those more high-end supermarkets that I went to because
Yes.
there was an office downtown. But if you see it, it is very expensive and people buy it. They go crazy over it. And
Mhm.
we have this, I'm just drawing reference just to Southside, but there's so much or so many other fruits and foods that can be homegrown that's healthy. And that there has been a lot of desire to engage, nothing wrong with that, with some Western
Mhm.
style foods, but you don't want to dismiss, right? Because then what happens is people will grow it, as I shared with you, and then they come back
Mhm.
to the country and sell it back to you.
Yes.
But
Like
that's a
the
whole
no. Yeah, but no, but on that exact, I'm not sure how many people might remember, but like the noni craze, maybe I don't know how long ago it was. Has to be more than a decade. But we have noni growing wild in Antigua. And for the most part, it wasn't really being used. And I remember at one point, I think I was probably in primary school, all of a sudden, bottled noni was selling like crazy. Everybody was trying to get it stocked in the supermarkets. And it's like, this is something we can make for free ourselves. And it was only when it was packaged as a superfood tonic that people were really interested in consuming it. And then, when that craze died down, it was just back to, ignoring the plants. Like I personally, it's disgusting. Like it smells so bad. I'm not gonna lie, but it's really, really good for you.
yeah.
And there are things like that. Like you said, the soursop, so many soursop trees, laden with fruit. The birds eat them, they drop, they spoil. We take it for granted, how privileged we really are, especially considering Antigua is not a big food producer, but we still have access to a lot. And I really hope that, through kind of what we saw during the pandemic, more people will be inspired to have home gardens, backyard gardens, to start looking at co-ops, having communities come together to plant and grow food because it's vital to our survival. So I'm hoping that that's something that a positive thing that stays with us, out of the pandemic going forward.
Yes, and that's partly why Antigua and Barbuda Holistic Coalition is here. Yeah.
Mhm. Yes.
So when you share with us about yin and kemetic,
Mhm.
of course, my mind immediately went to not only the physiological benefits, but the mental health benefits. And when you talk about the chakra,
Mhm.
which I understand that people get nervous when
Mhm.
we discuss things of the internal spiritual nature, if you will.
Mhm.
But I think it's so important because it really ties into our mental health. So,
Absolutely.
as a certified yoga instructor and teacher, can you share with us the mental health benefits of yoga and movement?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are so many mental health benefits, and a lot of them are tied to the physical aspects of yoga. So, what it allows us to do is one, focus on our body. A lot of times, we're going through the motions, we're so disconnected from our bodies, we don't even really know what we're feeling physically. So, yoga is one of the ways that we really tune into ourselves. We really have to pay attention, not just from the alignment aspect of how the pose looks, but okay, what am I feeling in this pose? Like, am I feeling my hips? Am I feeling my hamstrings? Am I feeling my shoulders? And just taking that time to really focus on what you're physically feeling is a step in the right direction for your mental health. So, with yoga, there's a lot of breath work, and that helps to activate our parasympathetic nervous system, which essentially helps to calm us down. A lot of the times we're tense, whether we're aware of it or not. I'm an extremely tense person. People think, I'm so calm because I'm a yoga teacher or my demeanor, but I'm a extremely, extremely tense, and sometimes very anxious person myself. And yoga has really helped me a lot in terms of being able to calm myself down in those moments where I'm starting to feel the anxiety become a bit too overwhelming. And, it also helps to improve our concentration because, again, we're taking the time to focus on one thing, to block out all the other thoughts that are popping into our mind and really focus on one particular thing. And whether that thing is your breath, maybe it's a thought that's reoccurring, and just taking a moment to acknowledge that thought and, see where it takes, where is this thought coming from? And it really helps a lot. Like just one yoga session, honestly, can help to calm you quite a bit. It's great for sleep if you have sleep issues. It's not uncommon for people to fall asleep towards the end of a yoga class,
I've
particularly
done
after
that.
the meditation session. I think if you've gone to enough classes, chances are you have dozed off for a moment. No shame in that. And I find it really helpful to take yoga sessions in the evening because generally you're so relaxed afterwards. If you have a really calming routine before bed, again, that helps to improve your sleep quality. which we know is directly tied to our mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So, the benefits also for kids. Again, people are surprised that I teach kids so young, but they say, oh, they can't keep still. And the thing is, they don't need to keep still. It's okay. Like the movement is good for them. And eventually they are able to keep still for quite a long time. They can learn to meditate. Like, trust me, children as young as 2 can learn the skills that are required to meditate. And it helps them to regulate their emotions. When we see tantrums, you know, sometimes people look at it as like a bad thing. Oh, this child doesn't have good behavior. They're not brought up well. But they're kids. They're expressing their emotions. And yoga is one of the ways that I can help encourage them to express their emotions and then also to help them calm themselves so they don't have to depend on other people as much to calm themselves down. So I can use my son as an example. I have a 5-year old, and sometimes when he gets really upset, as 5-year olds do, I can tell him, maybe take a deep breath, and he can sit down because he's done it enough times to know, okay, if I sit down and close my eyes and really breathe, I'll feel better. And then sometimes I don't have to prompt him to do that. He can feel himself getting upset. He knows what those feelings feel like, and he can take a step back. And I think that's amazing when I see it in kids. I teach at Young World Preschool. Yoga is now part of their curriculum. It has been
Mm-hmm.
for almost 2 years now. And, they have had rave reviews about how the children respond to it. They can really see the benefit that it has for their kids. And I'm hoping, more schools in Antigua follow suit and really incorporate it into just the overall programming.
Can you share about the breathing aspect of yoga? We've,
Yes, of
mhm.
course. So we've all been nervous before, we've all been anxious or scared. And immediately what happens? Your heart rate goes up, you're taking shorter breaths, maybe you're starting to sweat. Um, with yoga, by focusing on our breath, we're then able to slow our heart rate down, which calms all the other physiological responses that then allow you to relax your mind. So, deep breathing is an important part of yoga, again, because the slower the breaths, heart rate lowers, and again, you're better able to control all the other physical responses, and that helps your mind to settle. So, just like any other muscle, the same way you go to the gym, you lift weights, you do reps to train and get stronger. It's the same with our mental health, the same with yoga, the same with breath. The more you practice breath work, the more natural it becomes. I know we use terms like breath work and again chakras, and a lot of this jargon can sometimes be a little bit intimidating for people. I do my best in classes to just speak in a simple language as possible. I try to phrase things in different ways because different words resonate differently with people. But really, just being able to have better control over your breathing. And yoga is going to help with that over time because you'll be more aware, for one, as your body starts reacting in certain ways. Like when you notice tension in your neck. For me, I'm somebody when I'm really tense, my neck and shoulders are extremely tight. So being able to sense, when that is coming on, you sense it sooner as you become more aware of your body. Same thing with the hips. We don't necessarily think about our hips as a place where we're storing a lot of tension, but our hips tend to be so tight for a number of reasons. With its lifestyle, you're sitting at a desk all day. If you're an athlete, depending on the type of sports you do, that's going to make your hips naturally very tight. And, doing yoga is one of the ways that we can help relax those key muscles and also improve blood flow, which again ties back to how we feel mentally. So it's all interconnected.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know you touched on aged persons, seniors,
Mhm.
and youths, but just, I know there are different types of yoga. Can yin and kemetic be done in a chair? I've done chair yoga before
Yes.
because I think that I had hurt my knee somehow.
Mhm.
And I don't know why I was like, oh my goodness, I don't want to get stiff. And so I tried it out.
Mhm.
So if you want to tell us about chair yoga and who can do yoga.
Yeah, so first of all, who can do yoga? Anybody can do yoga. If you can breathe, you can do yoga. That's That's usually my bar. If you are able to inhale and exhale, yes, you can do yoga.
Mm.
Um, for chair yoga, so I do offer chair yoga. I think it's really beneficial. So not just for seniors, sometimes people take it for granted. So any any abilities, anybody who needs to sit to do yoga is welcome to do chair yoga. It doesn't have anything to do with your age. You know, even though I am traditionally able-bodied, I can benefit from doing chair yoga. It's really great if you work in an office, you know, you work long hours, you sit at a desk. You can sit at your desk and do 10 minutes of chair yoga in between calls or on breaks, again, to help improve your circulation, your blood flow, and then to help your mental health. But what chair yoga is, essentially, you're sitting on a chair. So you're seated the majority of the class. Sometimes we stand and use the chair for support because, again, we want to be as safe as possible when we're practicing yoga. So if your balance isn't the best for whatever reason, you know, the chair can offer a support for that. But essentially, it's just another tool, just like we use blocks, we use straps, we use cushions. The chair is just another tool that we use to make the poses more accessible. So again, it's not about age. It doesn't matter how old you are. Anybody is welcome to try chair yoga. But I have found that seniors tend to gravitate towards it again because for whatever reason, they might not be able to stand for as long, but they can still get, you know, the full body benefit of the movement of the meditation by having the chair as a support for them. So I think of it more as a tool, as an aid, rather than a crutch.
Beautiful. And for those that are watching, we encourage you to offer any questions or comments.
Yes.
For me, I was sharing with you that I work from home. Since the pandemic, I've been working from home and my business is
Mhm.
fully virtual. And I have noticed that, like I share with a lot of people, I believe that during the pandemic for us, our aging had accelerated in some ways.
Mhm.
Similarly, I was sharing with persons, I said, you ever hear someone saying, my mom would say, they sent me no nursing home, and I left me there, da, da," because there's when you're in those four walls, you tend to lose
Mhm.
sight of what's going on in the out world, the changes in season, date, and time, and you're not moving.
Yes.
So for me, my body has aged because I don't get up and go out, get in my car, drive
Mhm.
to the office, walk, or whatever. So now I have to be more intentional in offering a variety of movements just for my mental health because I'm not connecting with, human beings. And so
Yeah.
that is the reason why it was so important for me to bring this because it is holistic, right? Uh,
Mhm.
it is
Absolutely.
part of what we do, and yoga really introduces a lot of um, sort of emotional regulation. I
Mhm.
find for individuals, for children, people believe that children don't want to sit still, but they do. If
Mhm.
put a structure for them, they really appreciate that. They move around a lot more and tend to be most irregulated when there's a lack of structure or consistent structure that aligns with
Mhm.
who they are. Um,
Absolutely.
so, yoga definitely presents something that's fun, and there's a sense of autonomy in there as well, right? And so
Mhm.
people can look past, yes, sports is great, playing football, or basketball, volleyball, netball, all of those are wonderful.
Mhm.
But yoga is really can really be introduced, as you mentioned, into the schools, even if it's just on a monthly basis, because those athletes
Mhm.
need regulation too. And
Yes.
so I'm just really happy that you joined with me to talk about, yoga and to talk about the mental health benefits of yoga. And so if you can share with people how they can connect with you with Wadadlivity, in Antigua
Mhm.
and Barbuda and the services that you provide.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you so much for having me. It was really great to be able to use your platform to share with people about yoga and the mental health benefits, because I think sometimes we're so focused on the physical benefits of it that the mental health benefits sort of end up in the shadows. And I think, again, yoga is for everybody, every person, no matter what your lifestyle is, no matter your age, no matter your current physical health, can benefit from some form of yoga. And if you've tried yoga before and you didn't like it, that's okay. I would say still try it again, because there are so many different styles of yoga. Every instructor is different. So, I've gone to classes where, a particular instructor style didn't quite work for me. But don't let that discourage you. If you've tried one of my classes and it wasn't quite, the fit for you, don't let that discourage you from trying somebody else's class. Like, Antigua has so many great yoga instructors. Please, like, feel free to try any and all of us, and see what works best for you. In terms of how to reach me, www.wadadlivity.com. Thank you, Serene, for sharing it in the comments. And also, my social media tag at Wadadlivity is on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I'm not so active on TikTok. Um, Instagram is probably where you'll find the most activity from me right now. A little bit of activity on Facebook, but I'm working on making all of that a lot more consistent now. Um, Check out our new website. We did update the website recently, and there's a lot of great stuff coming. There's a virtual studio coming soon. So, no matter where you're located, you can participate in classes. Classes will be divided into from 5 to 20 minute time frames. So essentially, you can choose the class that's perfect for whatever you need in that moment, whether it's 5 minutes of breathing or 10 minutes of stretching, and just find ways to incorporate yoga into your daily life, that's easy for you.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful website. I mean, look at this. Look at
Oh, thank
you.
you.
Can everyone see it? I don't know if people can see it. I
Well,
hope
I
it's sharing on the live. You can see it. Yes.
Yeah,
It's
so
absolutely
this
beautiful.
aerial, I have to shout out to Jervez Lee. He's the one that filmed this stunning aerial footage that you're seeing here on the website. He's an amazing videographer and drone specialist. So he's been working with me a lot, in terms of putting content out there as well. While I'm on it, Zia Wilshire, he does pretty much all my portrait photography, so photos of me that you might see. Zia does quite a bit of it. And also Savant Media is who I'll be working with as well for this upcoming virtual studio. So stay tuned. It should be really beautiful, really helpful. And I hope that everyone can participate and benefit.
Yes, it is a beautiful website and the services, and thank you so much. And for all those, we have the website there where you, excuse me, you can join. I put it
Mhm.
in the chat box. Also, Stephanie, you're welcome to stay. I just want to talk a little bit about Antigua and Barbuda Holistic Coalition. Uh,
Awesome.
you know, our mission is to build holistic health equity with an emphasis on mental health. Holistic wellness involves caring for one's medical health, mental health, cultural health, educational and developmental needs, creativity, athletics, and spirituality and religious beliefs. We believe a holistic coalition is the key to building equity that involves government organizations, non government organizations, nonprofits, and businesses to collectively enter spaces or invite one another to bridge the gap through psychoeducation, info sessions, mental health first aid, with resources to fund mental health care, fund medication and specialty medical supplies, fund horticultural education. In other words, fund education surrounding indoor and outdoor gardening to increase access to healthier food options that will help improve not only the mind and body, but our ecosystems. And so I invite many of you to donate towards Antigua and Barbuda Holistic Coalition. We will be start spearheading some wonderful school-based services. That is our first goal, is to have a coalition of this is not official invite, but I'm just saying, such as Wadadlivity, to bring like yoga to schools, and not just a one-shot deal. We're talking something that is monthly to many schools. So it would be for several, just for example, several certified yoga instructors. We may guide them in breathing and do yoga, a yoga class school-based. It's really important for people to change their mindset and how we're delivering these services. Not everyone has transportation in Antigua and Barbuda and can easily go from point A to point B to east or west. So I believe it's important that we meet the clients where they already are. We meet the children, the families, the adults where they already are. Where are they? They're at the schools. Where are they? Gender affairs. Where are they? Social transformation. Where are they? The hospitals. Where are they? At the clinics. Wherever they are, we want to be invited there, and we want to be there to really offer accessible quality services. So many of these there are so many things going on in Antigua that really can boost one's mental health, mood, and their health. And a lot of tourists really enjoy it. But the people, the locals are not enjoying it, whether it's because of there's some level of fear and anxiety surrounding it, there's misinformation that's being shared, and understand that the smaller your community is, the more likely that you're going to be fed the wrong information, right? So I live in New York, so there can be wrong information, but it's going to take a long time for it to get to me, because once I hit Google or someone else is offering information, the stigmas are not so intense. But in Antigua and Barbuda, it's bittersweet to have a small country, because one, you have the opportunity to levitate or boost your ecosystems, your economy, your food production, your wellness. But at the same time, once wrong information is being fed, it works against that. And so Antigua and Barbuda Holistic Coalition is working to undo that and move forward. Yeah. And so with that said, donations are being accepted at PayPal. You see it there. I am the founder and president. Karen Kristen Joseph, that is my sister. She is the one that's overseeing our finances. And Tia Phillip, counseling psychologist in Antigua and Barbuda. She is also the secretary and founding director. We are not paid. This is just through our heart and our passion. And so this photo that you see of these three little girls, it really speaks to me. And that's why I chose that in their uniforms. And it just reminds me of seeing a child in Antigua. So thank you again, Stephanie, for staying for this and coming here to talk about yoga and the mental health benefits of yoga. And everyone, stay tuned. Tuesday, I'll be joined by AUA medical student, and we'll be talking about the fundamentals of schizophrenia. And there'll be a host of other things going on. Everyone, have a
Thank you so
wonderful
much.
day and a blessed and productive week. Thank you.
Bye.